The day begins, not with light, but with sound. A distant church bell tolls through the cold morning fog, its echo dragging you from uneasy slumber. You awaken beneath a coarse woolen blanket, its roughness unforgiving on your skin and your bed. It can be called that is nothing more than a sack of straw laid atop uneven wooden planks. The room smells of damp wood, stale sweat, and something acrid, like mildew and smoke woven into the walls. There is no warmth, the hearth is cold, and the stone walls do not hold heat. Outside your small wooden door, the village stirs slowly. But the day for you has already begun. There is no comfort in rising. Your muscles ache not from a workout at the gym, but from yesterday's labor in the fields. Endless hours of bending, pulling, lifting, hauling. Your hands are calloused. Your fingernails are black with soil that hasn't fully washed out in days. There is no soap, no clean towel, no mirror to gaze into. Your only reflection is in the dull sheen of a water basin, which may be shared by the entire household and possibly the livestock. This is not a bad day. This is every day. The air is cold, biting. There is no central heating, no electricity, no coffee to brew. You reach for stale bread, hardened from days exposed to the air. And if you're lucky, you may have a smear of lard to soften its texture. Butter is rare, cheese a luxury. There's no sugar in your tea because there is no tea. You drink ale weak, but safer than the water. Water from the well often carries disease, and even if boiled, may have a taste that makes you retch. Your clothes are the same as yesterday's coarse wool tunic, patched and repatched, over a linen undershirt that has not been washed in a week. Your shoes are thick leather, ill-fitting and cracked. You have no socks. Your breath fogs in the morning air as you step outside. The mud squelches beneath your feet. There is no pavement, only dirt and filth. The village path is lined with refuse rotting vegetable matter, animal droppings, and worse. There are no toilets here. Human waste is tossed into the open gutter or out of the window. The stink clings to everything. You are a peasant, and you are needed in the field. There is no question of what shall I do today. The question is whether. You can work hard enough to survive the season. You make your way to the fields, past the blacksmith's forge where sparks fly and iron screams under hammer, past the thatched cottages leaning with age, past the chickens pecking at what little is edible from the muck. The wind cuts through your tunic. Your lips are cracked. Your fingers numb. You work with your hands. Always with your hands. Plowing, sowing, harvesting depending on the season. The labor changes, but the intensity never does. Your tools are primitive wooden handles, iron tips, blisters form and burst. You smell of sweat, smoke, and dirt. By midday, your stomach growls, but there's little to offer it, perhaps a boiled turnip, a chunk of coarse rye bread, maybe a dried onion, if one remains from last autumn's store. Meat is for the feast days. Vegetables and grains sustain. You, barely. There are no lunch breaks. There is no shade. Only work and the rising sun overhead. Insects swarm your face. Flies buzz at your ears and eyes. There is no repellent, no clean towel to wipe the sweat. If you're cut on a sharp rock, a thorn, or rusted tool, there is no disinfectant. The wound might fester. You've seen it happen to others. Infection is common. So is fever. You carry on, by afternoon, your body cries out. The spine bows, the knees grind, but there is no mercy in this life. There are no doctors, not for you. The village healer might offer a poultice of herbs and superstition, but nothing more. If you grow ill, you may be bled, leeches applied, prayers whispered, or you may be left to rot, covered in a blanket while your family prays for your soul. You've watched too many neighbors vanish this way, back in the village. Children scream and laugh in the muck, their faces smeared with ash and dirt, their bellies often swollen not with plenty, but with malnutrition. The eldest son fetches water, heavy bucket slung on a yoke. His younger sister gathers kindling from the woods. Careful not to venture too far, wolves have taken 2 children this year. One was found with only a shoe and part of a leg. The other was never found at all, as the sun begins to dip behind the trees. Work ends, but not because the body wills, it because darkness is coming. There is no light to guide you. A single candle costs more than you can spare, and oil must be rationed. You return home, feet dragging, bones aching. The hearth is kindled with damp wood, and the smoke chokes the air before finally escaping through a narrow chimney. Dinner is a repetition stew, if you're lucky, thickened with barley, bitter herbs, maybe a few dried peas. There is no meat unless a chicken dies unexpectedly or a neighbor shares a kill. You eat in silence or soft murmurs, the fire popping in the background. The children sleep early, so do you. There's nothing else to do. You cannot read. Books are for the monastery, you cannot write. Education is a privilege of the clergy and nobility. The Bible, the only book you might ever glimpse, is written in Latin, a language as alien to you as the stars. You know only what the priest tells you, and he tells you that suffering is your path to heaven. As night falls, the temperature drops again. Rats scurry in the corners. You pull your blanket tighter, sharing body heat with those beside you. The fire burns low. You pray, not for riches, not for joy, but for survival. That no sickness strikes in the night. That your neighbor does not accuse you of stealing grain, or worse, of witchcraft. That no soldiers pass through demanding food, warmth, and women. That your Lord does not raise taxes again. You are one among thousands, nameless, voiceless, powerless. And yet, you endure. You endure a world where death waits in every shadow, where childbirth is a coin toss, where a broken leg can mean amputation, or slow death, where hunger returns like a ghost every winter. You have no rights, no choices, and no rest. And still, you rise with the bell, and the cold, and the ache, to begin again. This is the medieval world. It is not a fantasy. It is not chivalry and lace. It is mud and blood and silence. You in all. Your modern glory. With your phone and filtered water and warm socks and soft beds, you would not last a day. And we are only just beginning. Night in the medieval village arrives like a thief, sudden and unmerciful. There is no ambient glow from distant cities, no reassuring hum of electricity. Darkness is complete, blanketing the world in shadows that swallow sound and light alike. The fire in your hearth has dwindled to embers. You can barely see your own hand before your face. You feel the closeness of the walls, the scratching of rats near the floorboards, and the creak of the roof timber shifting with the cold. Sleep is not peaceful here. The straw mattress beneath you is damp and lumpy, and the coarse fabric of your blanket offers little protection against the chill. You sleep in your clothes not out of choice, but out of necessity. There are no pajamas, no woolen socks or comforters. You share your sleeping space with your family, perhaps your parents, your children, and if space is tight, even an elderly grandparent or an unmarried cousin. Privacy does not exist. Modesty is a luxury few can afford. You hear the shallow breath of those around you, their occasional coughs, the shifting of limbs, and sometimes the quiet weeping of a child too hungry or too cold to find rest. Beyond your thin walls, wolves howl. Their cries cut through the silence, a bone-chilling reminder that civilization, such as it is, ends a few dozen yards from your doorstep. The woods that surround your village are thick, wild, and often believed to be haunted. Superstition is not a curiosity. Here it is a matter of survival. The unknown is feared. The forest is home to more than just beasts. It holds spirits, witches, and demons, or so the villagers believe. And belief is powerful when your world offers no science, no safety net, no explanation for the chaos of illness and death. Morning comes not with grace, but with frost. You wake before dawn to the shivering of your body and the hoarse cough of someone nearby. The hearth must be rekindled, and someone must draw water from the well. It is your turn. You wrap yourself in a thin cloak, grab the wooden bucket, and step into the brittle dawn. Your breath clouds in the air. The path is slick with ice. The well is a half-mile walk, and already your boots are soaked. Your fingers numb as you draw water, the handle of the bucket worn smooth by hundreds of hands before yours. You pray it's safe to drink. You know it probably isn't back home. The fire struggles to catch. The wood is damp. Sparks hiss and die. You blow on it gently, coaxing it into life. Your face inches from smoke and ash. Your eyes sting. Your throat burns. But finally, a flame licks upward and heat begins to return. You boil water not for cleanliness, but to soften stale bread for breakfast. The children eat first. You scrape the bottom of the pot for yourself. There is no second serving. There is work to be done today beyond the field. Your Lord has called for a Levia service day. You are bound by duty and law to answer. You belong to the land as much as the trees and the soil. You gather your tools, your breath white and short in the icy air, and you walk with other villagers to the manor. It towers above the village, not in height, but in presence. Made of stone rather than wood, it is a fortress compared to your cottage. A symbol of the divide between you and those who rule over you. You are tasked with clearing brush near the road. The labor is heavy. The overseer watches with a sharp eye and a cruel tongue. Slackers are whipped, not metaphorically, but with a real, barbed whip. You keep your head down. You work without pause. Your fingers bleed from the thorns. There is no medical care, no bandages, no antiseptic. You press dirty cloth to the wound and continue. You dare not fall behind by midday. You are allowed to rest. You find a patch of sun and sit, your back aching, your hands trembling. A fellow laborer offers you a crust of bread. You thank him, tearing it with your teeth, chewing slowly to make it last. Around you, men cough, spit, and scratch. Fleas jump from collar to collar. No one is clean. No one smells pleasant. You haven't bathed in weeks. Neither has anyone else. The stench is thick, but no one remarks upon it. This is normal. Hygiene is not understood, let alone practiced. Illnesses spread like wildfire because no one knows how they travel. Some think it's bad air. Others believe it's a punishment from God. Either way, there is no prevention, only prayer. Later, as you return to your village, your pace slows. Your legs are weak. Your stomach churns with hunger. A distant tolling of the church bell reminds you of your other duty mass. Attendance is not optional. You enter the small stone church, its interior dim and smoky from tallow candles. The scent of incense does little to mask the odors of unwashed bodies. You kneel on the cold stone floor. Your knees scream in protest. The priest chants in Latin, words you do not understand but repeat by rote. The sermon is about sin, your sins, your laziness, your impure thoughts, your failure to give enough to the church. You leave with guilt weighing heavier than your tired limbs. Back home, your wife is tending to a sick child. The boy's face is flushed. His breath is shallow. You know what this means. Fevers like this do not pass quickly. You recall the last one. How your neighbor's son died in the night. Lips blue, limbs stiff, and how the priest said it was God's will. You fetch herbs from the store-dried mint, willow bark, and fennel. You brew a tea and hope for the best. Hope is all you have. There is no physician. There is no understanding of viruses or bacteria. Only ancient remedies and divine mercy. That night, you do not sleep well. The child moans. You rise to wipe his brow. You whisper prayers. Your wife weeps silently beside you. The other children sleep fitfully, disturbed by dreams or fleas or cold. You lie awake, staring at the ceiling. Beams, wondering if tomorrow will bring relief for death. In the morning, the fever has not broken. The child shivers violently. You consider calling the village healer, but her knowledge is limited. She may try a bleeding or a burning poultice. The priest may recommend exorcism, but you've seen this before. You know what comes. You kiss your son's forehead. You whisper that it's not his fault. And then you rise, because the fields await, and there is no time to mourn what has not yet been lost. On your way to the field, you pass a procession. 4 men carry a wooden cart draped in cloth. A body lies beneath it, your neighbor's wife. She died in the night. The black cloth covering her is already damp with morning dew. A group follows, heads bowed, murmuring prayers. The priest walks at the front, incense swinging, his face solemn but distant. Death is so common, it no longer surprises anyone. The gravedigger will be busy today. Later that day, a tax collector arrives. He wears fine boots and a fur-trimmed cloak. He does not smile. He carries a scroll, inked with Latin writing, and a heavy pouch. You owe a tithe both to the church and the Lord. You have no coin, so you offer grain. He takes more than you expected. You protest, gently, and he strikes you. Not hard, but hard enough. You fall silent. You watch as he walks away with food that could have fed your family for a week. You say nothing, you do nothing. Because to resist is to disappear. That evening, you eat sparingly. The child is worse. You prepare for the end. You sit by the fire, staring into the flames, wondering if tomorrow will bring his last breath. You feel powerless, broken. Your hands are rough with labor, your soul frayed from grief, and still, you endure. Because there is no alternative. Because giving up means death for everyone else. The world is not cruel. The world simply is. It has no kindness, no malice. It offers no explanations. Only the grinding wheel of time and labor, pain and prayer, hunger and frost. You live not by thriving, but by surviving. And if you, from the comfort of your modern home, imagine stepping into this world, even for a day, know this: your strength, your intelligence, your wealth mean nothing here. The medieval world does not care for your softness. It does not bend for your will. You would not last a day, and yet, for millions, this was life. And this is only the second day. The bells toll again, but this time they are not announcing the hour or summoning you to worship. They toll for the dead. A deep, slow, mournful peal rolls through the village. Each chime lingering in the cold air like a farewell that refuses to fade. Inside your cottage, silence hangs heavier than the smoke that clings to the ceiling. The child did not survive the night. Your son, once full of laughter and mischief, now lies still beneath a linen cloth. His skin is pale, his lips tinged blue. You sit beside him, motionless, the stillness of his body somehow more deafening than any scream. Your wife clutches a worn cross in her hands, murmuring prayers through sobs that hitch and break. The other children watch, wide-eyed and unsure, too young to understand death fully, too old to ignore its presence. There is no doctor to confirm what you already know. No funeral parlor, no death certificate. The priest will arrive soon, say a few Latin words, sprinkle holy water, and that will be the end of it. No autopsy, no answers. The sickness came and took him, as it has taken so many others. No one questions it. No one expects an explanation. It is simply the way of things. You lift his body gently. He weighs little now bones and skin, a boy who grew thin from fever and hunger. You wrap him in a simple cloth, not because it is ceremonial, but because it is the only clean thing you have. Outside, neighbors gather in quiet clusters, heads bowed. No one is surprised. No one gasps. Everyone understands. They've all buried children. Some have buried many. The village graveyard sits on the edge of the woods, surrounded by a low stone wall barely keeping back the wild. The soil is hard, still partially frozen. The gravedigger mutters curses as he works, striking the earth with his spade, each thud echoing like a dull drum beat. You watch, you do not cry. You did your crying during the night, when the fever broke into silence. Now you are empty. The priest arrives and begins the rites. You kneel, and the stones beneath your knees bite into your flesh. The burial is brief. There are no flowers, no speeches. Just a cross, carved roughly from wood, and a name scratched into the bark with a knife. You do not linger. You cannot. There is work to be done. Grief is not an excuse to ignore your duties. The fields need tending. The livestock needs feeding. Your Lord expects your labor, regardless of your sorrow. You return home and scrub your hands raw with cold water. Not to cleanse yourself of germs. You know nothing of them but to remove the scent of death. It clings to you, anyway. In the days that follow, life resumes its punishing rhythm. You wake, you labor, you eat what little you have, and you collapse. Again into restless sleep. Your wife is quiet now, her eyes hollow. She moves like a shadow through the house, tending to chores with mechanical precision. The children sense the shift, and their play is more subdued. They do not speak of their brother. His name is avoided, not because he is forgotten, but because remembering hurts too much. And while grief suffocates you, the world beyond your village moves forward without pause. Spring has arrived, and with it, new tasks. The thawed earth is ready for planting. You must prepare the fields, sow the seeds, repair fences, and mend tools. Your fingers bleed anew. Your back bends farther. The sun returns, but it brings no comfort, only more labor. One afternoon, while digging near the edge of the field, you uncover a bone, not from an animal, human, ancient, perhaps. The village is built upon its own dead. You leave it undisturbed and continue working. Death is so common that even its remnants buried in the soil no longer cause alarm. The village buzzes with tension this season, more than usual. There are rumors, whispers of unrest in distant cities, talk of rebellion, of peasants rising up against their lords. You do not know if the stories are true. You barely know what lies beyond the next hill. But the priest warns against it in his sermons. Rebellion is sin. To rise against your Lord is to rise against God. You lower your head and murmur your amens, but in your heart something shifts. Not rebellion, but a question, quiet and persistent. Is this truly the life you were meant to live? The question does not last long. Soon your village is visited by a nobleman and his entourage. He arrives on horseback, clothed in velvet and chainmail, flanked by guards whose boots are clean and eyes are cruel. They carry banners and demands. The nobleman does not speak to you. He does not acknowledge you. His steward reads from a scroll. More men are needed for the army. A war is brewing. The reason is vague, a border dispute, a slight insult, a divine calling. It does not matter. Your village must send 5 men. You are not chosen, but your friend is. He has a wife, 3 children, and a limp from an old injury. It does not matter. He is taken. You watch as he is dragged away, protesting weakly, and you say nothing. You cannot afford to draw attention. You cannot afford to become the 6th. That night, the village is restless. Mothers weep, fathers drink. Some try to pray, but the words feel empty. War is not an adventure. It is a death sentence. Few return. Those who do are broken in body and mind. You recall one such man, returned from a skirmish years ago. His hands shook constantly. He screamed in his sleep. He wandered into the woods one winter and never came back. The next day, you are sent to help repair the church roof. The work is dangerous, slippery stone, rotted beams, but the church must remain standing. It is the center of your life, whether you believe in it or not. It is where you are married, where your children are baptized, and where you will be buried. As you climb the ladder, you feel a gust of wind and falter. Your foot slips, your fingers clutch at nothing, and you fall. Pain. Blinding white-hot pain erupts in your leg. Shouts follow. People run to you. You are carried to your cottage, laid on your straw bed. Your leg is twisted, broken. There is no hospital, no ambulance, no X-ray. Only the healer and her splints made of willow bark. She sets the bone with a sickening crack, binds it tightly, and tells you to pray. You do, but the pain does not fade. It burns constantly, worsens by the hour. Fever follows. Your leg swells. The skin blackens. The healer suggests amputation. The priest offers last rites. Your wife sobs. You scream. The blacksmith is summoned not for tools, but for his strength. You are held down. A hot iron is prepared. There is no anesthesia, no sedative, only a piece of leather to bite down on. You remember nothing after the first slice. Days pass. The fever breaks. You live. But you are changed. You walk now with a heavy limp. You cannot labor as you once did. You are a burden, the village whispers. Your Lord may no longer accept your tithe. The priest says suffering brings you closer to Christ. You believe him, because believing anything else is unbearable. You sit by the fire more often now. Your crutch always within reach. You watch others do what you once did. You teach your son how to mend tools, how to sow grain, how to sharpen the scythe. You fear he will bury you before his voice even changes. Yet still, the days pass, each one identical to the last. Hunger, cold, work, rest, no celebration, no relief, and always death nearby. You begin to forget what joy feels like. You begin to forget your own strength, and yet you endure, because there is no choice. Because that is all you have ever known, but you who sleep on memory foam, who complain when the Wi-Fi lags, who panic at the sniffle of a cold you could not last here. Not in this world, not with this pain, not with this silence. You would not survive the fall, and we have yet to face the plague. There is a shift in the wind. It begins slowly, like the breath of a distant storm carried over the hills. A rumor passed from the lips of a passing merchant, his wagon laden with dried figs and old cloth. He says that in the cities to the south, people are dying dozens, hundreds, more than can be buried. He says their skin turns black, that they bleed from the mouth and nose, that death comes swiftly, and none are spared. The villagers laugh nervously. Stories like these are not new. They come and go, like the travelers who bring them. But this tale lingers in the air, foul and uneasy, and no one quite forgets it. The priest dismisses the rumor, calling it hysteria. He says God punishes the wicked, not the faithful. He urges more devotion, more fasting, more alms. But even he does not meet your eyes when he speaks. He's heard more than he admits. By midsummer, the deaths begin. At first, it is the beggar woman who sleeps near the church wall. She is found at dawn, her limbs stiff, her eyes glassy, a blackened swell beneath her jaw. Then it is the blacksmith's apprentice, a strong young man who coughed through the night and was cold by morning. Then a mother and her infant. Then 2 children from the same house. It is not age or sin or occupation that determines who dies. It is simply presence. The village healer tries her remedies, serbs teas, poultices, prayers, but nothing works. The sickness laughs at her efforts. She begins wearing a cloth soaked in vinegar across her face. Others mimic her, clutching posies of lavender and rosemary. Some smear their doorframes with pig's blood. Others tie charms of bone and hair to their children's clothes. But the deaths continue. The priest changes his tone. He now says that the plague is punishment not for individual sin, but for the collective wickedness of man. He holds longer sermons, filled with fire and warning. He speaks of Sodom, of Nineveh, of cities laid low by divine wrath. He weeps from the pulpit, but even as he preaches, he keeps distance from his flock. The incense he burns is thicker. The church doors are kept open for air. You smell fear in him, heavy and unhidden. When the nobleman returns, he comes cloaked and masked. His steward does the speaking. They command that the village gate be shut, that outsiders be turned away. No one is to enter or leave. Trade is halted. Markets close. Food grows scarcer. The miller begins to ration flour. The alewife watered downs her brew. Hunger deepens the fear. Then your neighbor, a woman you've known since childhood, falls ill. She complains of a headache, then a fever, then boils appear on her neck. They swell, black and weeping. Her screams echo through the village, raw and animal. Her family barricades themselves inside. 3 days later, the door is broken open. Inside, all are dead. The gravedigger refuses to bury them. No one comes near their home. It sits rotting, windows shuttered, door swinging in the wind. Children dare each other to touch the threshold. None do. The village changes. People speak less, avoid each other's gaze, keep to their homes. The church stands mostly empty. The priest no longer walks among the sick. He lights candles and prays from a distance. When he visits the dying, he speaks through the door. You tend your fields, but with each row sown, you wonder if it will be harvested. The days are long, the sun hot, and still the plague takes more. Your cousin's wife, the healer's assistant, the young man who was to marry next month. There are no weddings now, no baptisms, only funerals, and fewer of those, because soon the dead are too many to bury. Mass graves are dug beyond the village. Wall pits, wide and deep, filled with lime and layered with bodies. The stench is unbearable. Buzzards circle overhead. The gravedigger wears cloth soaked in wine around his face. His hands shake. He drinks heavily now. You begin to feel the fever. It starts with a headache, a pounding behind your eyes that does not leave. Your mouth is dry, your throat raw. You lie to yourself. It is nothing. You worked too long in the sun. You did not sleep well. But when the swell appears beneath your arm, angry and hot, your heart goes cold. Your wife sees it first. She gasps, covers her mouth, steps back. The children are ushered outside. You are left alone. They do not abandon you entirely. Food is left at the door. Water, when it can be spared. But you remain alone in your bed, fevered and hallucinating, soaked in sweat. You cry out, no one comes. You scream, no one answers. The pain is beyond endurance. Your body twists with it. Your mind drifts, dreams folding into nightmare, past and future blurring. You see faces of the dead. You hear their voices. On the 5th night, the fever breaks. You wake weak, trembling but alive. The boil beneath your arm has burst. The sheets are stained, you can hardly move. But you breathe. You survived. You are one of the few. When you are strong enough to walk again, the world has changed. Half the village is gone. Homes are empty. Fields overgrown. The priest is dead. He died alone in the rectory, found days later by a child searching for food. His body was burned. The church stands locked. Survivors move like ghosts, silent, thin, wide-eyed. No one touches, no one laughs, no one celebrates. You are not welcomed with open arms. You are feared, tainted. People give you space, whisper behind your back. Some call you a witch. Others say you have been marked by God. You do not know what to believe. You feel neither cursed nor blessed. Only tired you visit the graves. Your wife and children survived, but your cousin did not. Nor did your friend who once offered you bread in the fields. The gravedigger sits beside a grave, drunk, mumbling. He tells you he has seen too much. He weeps for no one in particular. One day, a wagon arrives from a neighboring town. It carries 2 monks and a chest of supplies. They speak of rebuilding, of returning to faith, of hope. No one listens. Their words are too late. Trust is gone. You rebuild your roof. You mend your tools. You sow what you can. But something in the soil feels dead. Something in the air feels hollow. The world you knew is gone. You survived the plague. But part of you did not. And you, watching from centuries away, in your sanitized world of pills and vaccines, where a sneeze means little and a fever sends you to urgent care, you could not comprehend the terror of a cough, the doom of a boil. You could not survive the loneliness of quarantine with no medicine, no knowledge, no comfort. You would crumble in the face of such unrelenting, invisible death. You would not last a day. And yet, there is more to endure. The silence left by the plague is not one of peace, it is one of absence, of hollow places once filled with voices and footsteps and names. You walk through the village and see ghosts in every doorway, memories etched into crumbling stone. The baker's shop is boarded up. The cooper's shed lies in disrepair. A cart sits where it was abandoned mid-journey, half filled with empty sacks and rotted leather. It is as if the world paused, but the rot continued. You are among the living, yes, but barely. And you are not the same man who once plowed fields with quiet resolve. The sickness passed through your body, but it left behind a shadow. Some mornings you wake short of breath, your limbs ache, your thoughts drift and scatter like dry leaves. There are no physicians here to diagnose your condition. No one speaks of long recovery, only survival or death. But you know that something inside you was changed, weakened, hollowed. The social order that once governed your world, rigid, unquestionable, divine, now wobbles on uneasy legs. The priest is gone, and no replacement has yet arrived. The manor is shuttered. The Lord has not been seen since the sickness began. Some whisper that he fled to a fortified estate farther inland. Others say he died. Either way, his absence has changed the village in ways more profound than the empty pews or uncollected rents. People begin to speak more freely. You hear questions where before there was only silence. Why do we give so much to the church, only to be abandoned? Why must we break our backs for lords who vanish in our hour of need? The whispers are still tentative, the glances still cautious. But the obedience that once wrapped itself like iron around every villager's soul is loosening. You feel it, too, not rebellion, exactly, but a shift. A weariness that no longer bows its head. And yet, survival demands structure. Without the priest, a handful of elders take charge of the communal prayers. They hold meetings in the churchyard, assigning tasks, settling disputes. You are invited once, then again. Soon you find yourself among those asked to help re-establish some kind of order. You do not seek power. You never have, but in a world where the rules have crumbled, even reluctant voices are needed. Food is scarce. that becomes clear quickly, with fewer hands to till the soil, to grind the grain, to slaughter the animals. The already precarious system of supply is collapsing. Barter replaces coin more aggressively than before. Labor becomes currency. Those who know how to mend boots or make soap are suddenly more valuable than those who only recite Latin and wear fine robes. The land waits for no man. Crops must be planted, tools must be repaired, and the cycle of work that underpins all survival demands constant motion. You limp still, but your strength has returned enough to wield a hoe, to guide a plow, to instruct a boy with hands too soft and eyes too wide. You teach him how to balance the yoke on an ox, how to sharpen a scythe without breaking its spine, how to read the clouds before a storm. He is not your son, but in this time, blood is no longer the only bond that matters. You return one afternoon to find your wife scraping lichen from a stone. She boils it, adds it to stew. It tastes bitter, but fills the belly. She tells you of a traveling woman who came through the edge of the woods, speaking in strange dialect, trading odd herbs for eggs and thread. Some say she's a witch. Others say she's a saint. No one dares accuse her openly. You remember a time when such a woman would have been dragged to the church steps, beaten, judged, and burned. But now, suspicion wars with desperation, and desperation is winning. There are fewer eyes to judge, and yet, fear still rules. At night you hear screams echo across the valley. Wolves, perhaps. Or something worse. One night, a hut at the edge of the village burns. No one knows or claims to know how it began. The family within is buried silently. Some say it was illness, others say it was justice. You do not ask. You know better now than to seek clarity in a world governed by fear and instinct. One evening, word arrives that a knight rides for your village. Not your lord, he's presumed dead, but a representative of the crown perhaps, or a minor noble sent to re-establish order. The news spreads like wind across dry grass. Some prepare flowers, others clean their homes. A few hide in the woods. You sharpen your scythe not as a weapon, but as a comfort. It feels familiar in your hands, steady, known. The knight arrives with 6 men, all armored, all silent. His cloak is fine, his horse large. His eyes are pale and uninterested in faces. He speaks to no one except the steward of a nearby estate, who joins him in the church and closes the door. The villagers gather outside like dogs waiting scraps. You stand at a distance. Your wife tells you to be careful. You nod. The doors open at dusk. The knight steps onto the stone steps and unrolls a scroll, by decree of the king. The lands are to be surveyed, the fields redrawn. Survivors are to register their names, their households, their labor capacity. Tithes will resume. Rents will be enforced. Loyalty is to be reaffirmed. Disobedience will be punished. Justice will be swift. The knight does not wait for cheers. There are none. He departs the next morning, leaving behind a man who will act as bailiff. The bailiff is not from your village. He speaks with a different accent, holds himself with authority not yet earned, and carries a whip he wears openly at his side. He calls meetings. He assigns quotas. He takes what little food is stored in the church cellar and claims it for redistribution. Your wife tells you to stay quiet. You try, for a while, but hunger returns. And with it, Anger. One night, a group of villagers meet beneath the old oak at the edge of the field. Torches burn low. Voices are hushed. They speak of injustice, of stolen bread, of forced labor, of the bailiff's cruel hand. You listen. You say little. But when the vote is taken whether to act or not, to raise your hand, it is not revolution. It is survival. At dawn the bailiff is found tied to the stocks, his whip broken, his cloak torn. He is left alive, barely, a message, a line drawn. The night does not return. No soldiers follow. For now, you are alone again. The harvest comes. You reap what you can. It is not enough. Winter will be cruel, and still. You endure. You who live in a world where wrongs are challenged with signatures, where grievances are aired through screens and lawyers, where justice is slow but orderly, could not fathom a world where justice is forged from blood and silence. You would look at this world and flinch. You would beg for structure, for someone to take control. You would not last a day, and the cold is coming. The first snow does not fall gently. It crashes down from the sky like a warning, thick and heavy and unforgiving. You awaken to silence, not the gentle kind that follows prayer, but the sort that comes before something terrible. Your breath is visible in the air above your face. You've slept fully clothed, as you always do in winter, wrapped in every threadbare blanket your household owns, pressed tightly to your wife and youngest childlike embers, trying not to go cold. But still, your fingers are numb. Your nose aches. There is no escaping the cold. You pull back the wooden shutter to see the village blanketed in white. The roofs sag under the weight. The well has frozen over. The fire in the hearth has long since gone out. There is no fuel left to burn, not unless you tear apart your stool or the old spinning wheel. You may have to, but not yet. You have 2 small logs left and a bundle of kindling. They must last until the woodcutter returns, if he returns at all. He went to the forest 3 days ago and has not come back. You must make the fire again. It is harder than it seems. Your fingers do not want to move. You strike flint to steel, over and over, until the spark catches the old cloth and you breathe life into it, gently, until it becomes a whisper of flame, then a tongue, then a mouth. The warmth is small, but it is enough to gather around. For now there is no breakfast. You chewed the last of the dried meat last night, after convincing your wife to split it. She insisted you eat it. You insisted she do the same. In the end, you both swallowed scraps and lied to each other about being full. The children had a stew made from water, garlic, and onion peel. Tonight, there may be nothing at all. You inventory your cellar. A few turnips, a jug of ale, half full, 2 onions, moldy rye bread. You scrape the mold off. You will not waste even that. You've gone to bed hungry before, but never this hungry. The animals are gone. The chickens were slaughtered 2 weeks ago. The pig was sold to the steward in exchange for salt and a length of cloth. You've seen rats in the corners lately. If you're lucky, you may catch one. If you're desperate enough, you'll eat it. The snow continues to fall. The road out of the village disappears beneath a crust of ice. No one travels, no carts, no merchants. The world shrinks to your doorstep. Time slows. Each hour is a trial of endurance, not marked by clock or chime, but by the agony of an empty stomach and the ache in your bones. Your children do not laugh. They lie on the floor near the fire, silent, conserving energy. Your wife hums old lullabies not to soothe them, but to keep herself from weeping. At night, the cold becomes a predator. It waits until your guard is down, until the fire burns low, until your breath slows in sleep. Then it creeps beneath the blanket, along your spine, into your chest. You wake with a start, body rigid with chill. You reach for your child, she is breathing. You check your wife still warm. You add the last bit of kindling. The fire sputters. You pray it holds. You wonder how long you can last. You hear that others are worse off. A boy dies in his sleep, starved, frozen. An old man is found stiff in his chair, hands curled around a rosary. No one dares bury him. The ground is too hard. He remains in his home, covered with a cloth, until the thaw. The air around his cottage smells sour. You avoid it one morning. You venture out. You wrap yourself in every layer you own, wool, fur, even a damp linen shirt. Your boots are cracked, but you wrap your feet in cloth. The snow comes up to your knees. You move slowly, painfully, to the edge of the village where the last trees still stand. You carry a hatchet. You search for branches, dead wood, anything that burns. You find some, but not much. You drag it home, arms aching, legs trembling. It may last 2 days. Maybe. You return to find your wife boiling the turnips. She's added a dried herb, one she saved from autumn. It smells of dirt and bitterness. You eat slowly, savoring every fiber. The children slurp greedily, then scrape the bowl. There is no waste. Not now. Not ever again. That night, someone knocks on your door. You freeze. No one visits at night. Not in this weather. You open it cautiously. A man stands there, wrapped in furs, barely visible under the frost. You recognize him. He lived at the far end of the village. His wife and son died last week. His eyes are hollow. He asks for food. You have none. You shake your head. He does not argue. He simply nods and walks away. The next morning, you learn that he is gone, not dead, just gone. No one saw him leave. No one knows where he went. Perhaps into the woods. Perhaps into the cold. Perhaps into madness. You do not ask. You are too afraid of the answer. The winter grinds on. You lose weight. Your clothes hang loosely. Your cheeks are sunken. You begin to feel lightheaded often. You sometimes forget what day it is, or what you were doing. You stare into the fire, not thinking, not sleeping, just watching the flame dance. You count the logs left. 1, then none. Then ash. You begin to burn furniture. The stool, a broken spinning wheel, the frame of the old bed. You rip out part of the doorframe to feed the flame. Your wife says nothing. She helps you. This is survival now. Comfort is long gone. And then one morning, there is sun. You open the shutter to see the light glinting off melting snow. You hear water trickling. Birds, you weep. Spring is here, but it does not bring immediate salvation. The snow recedes, but the hunger remains. You have no seed left to plant. The storehouses are empty. The ground is wet, but bare. You must wait weeks before anything grows. Until then, you scavenge roots, wild herbs, anything green. You trap squirrels. You boil bark for broth. You ration what little remains. Somehow, you endure. Others do not. You Help bury 3 more neighbors before May. One is a woman who simply never woke. The other 2 froze together, wrapped in the same cloak. You dig the graves yourself. The ground is soft again. It feels wrong. You are thinner than you have ever been, but you are alive, and your children live, and you do not understand why. In your world, back in the comfort of warm rooms and stocked shelves, you do not know what it means to fight for breath, to choose between food and fire, to watch your family shrink and quiet and fade before your eyes. Winter is a nuisance to you, a backdrop, a time of holidays and scarves and snowflakes. But here, in the medieval world, winter is death, and you're wrapped in down coats, walking across heated floors, sipping coffee you did not grow, could not survive a single week in the dark of February. You would not last a day, and yet, winter was only one kind of trial. The thaw does not come as quickly as you had hoped. Though the snow has receded and the streams have begun to flow again, the mud now becomes your new adversary. The pathways between homes are ankle-deep in sludge. Your boots are constantly wet, and blisters form beneath the cracked leather. Everywhere you walk, you carry the weight of the earth with you each step, a struggle through the thick remnants of winter, and still, you must prepare the fields. This is the time of reawakening. Not in spirit, but in obligation. If you fail to sow before the rains subside and the soil dries, the harvest will fail. And if the harvest fails, you will starve. So, despite the weakness in your limbs, despite the persistent cough you haven't shaken since December, you rise with the sun each morning and make your way to the plow. The oxen are fewer this year. Disease and hunger took some of them, and those that remain are gaunt and irritable. You work beside your neighbors in silence. The joviality of past springs is gone. The air is heavy with memory. Everyone here has buried someone. Every face holds grief just beneath the surface, like a reflection beneath still water. You glance across the field and see the boy you helped last year, the one whose father was taken by the steward's levy. The boy is taller now, his hands blistered, his shoulders rounded by labor. He doesn't smile when he sees you. He only nods and returns to his work. In this new world, kindness has become quiet, and trust is a long, cautious process. The church remains locked. No priest has come to replace the one who died during the plague. You and a few others take turns ringing the bells each Sunday, not for sermons, not for ceremony, but as a reminder that the village still breathes, that not everything is lost, but faith has changed. Where once it was absolute, now it is laced with fear and doubt. The old certainties no longer comfort you. God's mercy seems far away, unreachable. You pray still, everyone does, but it feels like habit, like superstition. You no longer expect answers. You simply hope not to be punished. One afternoon, while tilling a narrow strip of land near the forest edge, your hoe strikes something hard, not stone wood. You dig around it and find a box, rotted and wrapped in leather. Inside, coins, small and tarnished, silver and copper, enough to buy. Seed enough to survive, but you say nothing. You wrap the box in cloth, hide it beneath a loose floorboard at home. You tell no one. In this time, generosity is dangerous. You feel guilt, but you feel relief more. The days lengthen. The birds return. The trees bud with cautious green, and the travelers come, They trickle in along the muddy roads, merchants, pilgrims, wanderers. Some claim to be scribes, others craftsmen. Some come with carts, others with nothing but rags and stories. Many seek food, shelter, safety. Not all can be trusted. One man is caught stealing bread from an elderly widow. He is beaten, not by soldiers, but by villagers. You do not join in, but you do not stop them either. Order has not yet returned. There is no reeve, no sheriff, no law. The nobleman never came back. His steward never sent word. You have lived through winter without governance, and now you understand what that truly means. Justice is whatever the strongest agree it is. Mercy is whatever you can afford. And then, one day, a messenger arrives. He comes on horseback, carrying a scroll sealed with wax. He reads aloud in the churchyard. By royal command, all able-bodied men must register for a labor tally. A new road is to be built, a bridge repaired. Refusal will be punished by seizure of land or imprisonment. You have no land, not really. But the steward, yes, a new one has come. Thin and pale and far too young demands that you serve. You try to argue your injured leg. He does not care. You leave your home with nothing but a crust of bread, your hoe, and a threadbare cloak. Your wife weeps, not because she thinks you will die, but because she knows you might never return. Or worse, you might return changed. The labor camp is 20 miles away. You walk the entire distance over 3 days, sleeping under hedges and behind stones. When you arrive, you are greeted by men who wear the king's badge, but carry themselves like thugs. They bark orders. They shove you into a group of other peasants, some old, some young, all tired. You are given a shovel and told to dig, and dig you do. From sunrise to sunset, you heave earth, stone, and timber. You drag rocks from the river. You hammer pegs into icy ground. You cut down trees with axes too dull to bite. Your hands bleed. Your back knots. There is no pay, only food-thin stew and crusts. You sleep on dirt. You dream of fire and warmth and the softness of your wife's voice. Men disappear in the night. Some run, others fall from exhaustion and are dragged away. No one speaks of them. You do not ask. You do not risk your place in the work line. After 2 weeks, your hands are barely recognizable. The skin is torn in ribbons. Your knuckles are cracked. You cannot grip the shovel without pain. But you continue. You think of your family, your children, your hearth. You hold those images like talismans against the creeping numbness of your body. One night, you find a scrap of parchment in your pocket, a note your wife must have slipped in before you left. It reads only, "Come back." Whatever it takes, it gives you the strength to rise the next day. Eventually, the road is complete. The bridge stands. The laborers are released. You begin the walk home, limping, thinner, changed. You pass a village where no homes are standing, burned likely in a raid. You quicken your pace. When you arrive, your home is there. Your children run to meet you. Your wife weeps again, this time in relief. You hold them all, your arms shaking not from weakness, but from joy. You return to the field the next morning. There is no rest in this life, only small mercies. You are grateful for this one. But you, from a world of weekends and sick days, of labor laws and unions, you would collapse at the first demand of a road built by hand, without machinery, without kindness. Without pause, you would last a day, if you were lucky. You are home again, but home is not the same. It never is after absence. Your children are older, not just in height, but in the eyes. They ask fewer questions now. They move carefully, watchfully, as if every movement must be measured. Your wife greets you with warmth, but also with caution. She has carried the weight of your household for weeks alone, and the burden has left its mark. You see it in her posture, in the new line between her brows, in the way her hands tremble when they rest. She is relieved, but she is also tired. Tired in a way no sleep can cure. And you, too, are changed. You limp more than before. You speak less. When you dream of dirt and shouting men and endless rows of stone. The road you helped build leads nowhere you care about. But you know you will never forget the sound of the pickaxe striking frozen ground, the smell of sweat and blood and spoiled food, the desperate silence that settled each night when the fire died and no one dared to speak. But the field waits. Regardless of your pain, spring now turns into summer, and the earth demands your labor. You rise before the sun, tie your leg with cloth to keep it steady, and you work. The plow, the hoe, the harvest, they make no allowances for trauma. The weeds choke the rows if left alone. The rain will wash away seeds if you delay. Time moves forward with no concern for the soul. There is little talk now of kings or stewards or decrees. The noble class has grown quiet again. Some say they have retreated to their high towers, waiting for the world to stabilize. Others say they are embroiled in wars, far away fighting for borders, crowns, or pride. You no longer care. Their games do not change your hunger. But one day, as you sharpen your scythe in the barn, you hear the clatter of hooves. A rider enters. The village square, a courier, dust-covered and haggard. He speaks with urgency, and the villagers gather. You wipe your hands on your tunic and limp forward, listening. A new law has passed. A census is to be taken. The names of all villagers are to be recorded. The lands are to be reassessed. A new tax is coming, this time not in grain or wool, but in coin. You have no coin, almost no one does. You barter, trade, or owe favors. But the king's officials do not want eggs or timber, they want silver. You feel the old anger return, quiet, bitter. You are not a rebel, but you are not blind. How can a man pay taxes with no purse? The elders meet. They decide that the village will write a petition, a humble one. It will travel with the next merchant caravan to the city. A parchment wrapped in wool, addressed to a man whose title stretches 3 lines long, asking for mercy from people who have never held a plow. Weeks pass. No answer comes. Instead, soldiers arrive, 3 of them, armed and armored, riding tall horses. They do not speak kindly. They read from a scroll, list names, demand payment. They post a notice on the church door. All unpaid taxes must be rendered. By the next moon's turn, or property will be seized. The next day, the blacksmith's anvil is taken. The day after, the cooper's wheel. You hide what little you own in the quiet hours of the morning. You help bury your few silver coins in the forest, under a stone near the stream. It is not enough, but it is all you have. Your wife whispers that she might sell her shawl, the one her mother gave her on her wedding day. You tell her no, though your voice shakes, the pressure builds. Food remains scarce. The summer sun is harsh. Crops grow poorly. The stream runs thin. People fall ill, again not with plague, but with fevers, stomach cramps, skin lesions. You suspect it is the water. A carcass was found upstream, rotting and bloated, but the steward's man refuses to act. He calls it superstition. You boil your water, you hope it helps. And then, a theft occurs. The steward's house, one of the few stone buildings in the village, is broken into. His food stores are raided. A small chest of coin is taken. The soldiers return in a fury. They search homes. They overturn beds. They question your children. You say nothing. You know nothing. But it doesn't matter. You are called before the steward anyway. He sits behind a long table, flanked by guards. His cloak is rich. His boots shine. He looks at you as if you are dung on his floor. He asks you where the money is. You tell him. You don't know. He asks again, louder. You repeat yourself. He stands, walks slowly, places a hand on your shoulder, smiles, then he strikes you across the face. The pain is immediate, white hot, but you do not fall. You hold his gaze. You taste blood. He calls you a liar. He warns you that next time, he will not be so merciful. You leave the hall with a swollen jaw, a bruised rib, and the understanding that power answers only to itself. Your children do not ask where you went, but they see the marks. They are old enough now to understand the price of silence. Weeks pass. The thief is never found, but the steward's wrath does not fade. He increases the tax. He demands grain, wool, meat. You give what you can. You sell a pot. You trade your cloak. You kill a hen. Still, it is not enough. Then the church bell rings not for worship, but for judgment. A woman has been accused of witchcraft. You recognize her. She lives at the edge of the village, alone, always has. She speaks to herself, tends herbs, keeps cats. They say she poisoned the well, that she brought the fever, that she looked at a cow and it died. You know. It is nonsense. You know she is simply strange, lonely, but you also know how fear works. She is dragged to the square. She screams. She begs. No one helps her. A trial is held. A mockery that steward presides. The priestess, a new one has come, says little. He only recites verses. The crowd murmurs. Stones are thrown. She is found guilty. She is hanged at sunrise. The body swings. For hours you avoid the square that day. That night you bury your herbs in the forest. You tell your wife to never speak of healing again, because in this world knowledge is suspicion. Difference is danger. You survive another season. Just barely. You mend what is broken. You plant again. You count the days by hunger and sunset. And you, in your world of courts and rights and laws, you could not fathom the randomness of punishment. The ease with which a lie becomes a sentence. The cruelty born of fear. You would demand justice. You would appeal. You would write letters. But here, there is no appeal. Here there is only endurance. And you would not last a day. As the years pass, the village slowly finds a new rhythm. The wounds of plague, famine, and lawlessness begin to scar over, but the memories remain, etched into every stone and whispered in every shadow. You live with the knowledge that life is fragile, precarious, like a candle flame flickering in the wind, and that the world you inhabit is ruled by forces far beyond your control. You work the fields, harvest the grain, and prepare for the coming winter once more, but your heart is heavy. The village feels smaller now, tighter and more insular. Outsiders are eyed with suspicion. Travelers pass less frequently. The roads are muddy and treacherous, and no one ventures far. Tales of bandits and rebels spread. You hear rumors of conflict. To the east, of knights clashing and towns burning. It feels distant, but the fear seeps inward like poison. You tend your family carefully. Your children grow, but so do the challenges. The boy you taught years ago now works alongside you. His hands have calluses like yours, but his eyes are sharper, wary. The girl is quiet, watching the world with a cautious curiosity. You hope they will know a better life. You hope they will never face the horror of fever that took so many. You hope they will never see the gallows or the plague pit. But you know hope is a fragile thing. The village elders speak sometimes of petitioning the king again, asking for relief, for protection. You listen but remain silent. You have learned that promises from above are like smoke, visible for a moment, then gone. You have seen justice vanish in the hands of those who wield it. A new lord arrives in the nearby town. He brings knights and soldiers. He brings law and taxes and strict rules. He orders the roads repaired. He demands loyalty. The village watches with a mix of hope and dread. Some believe this will bring order and prosperity. Others fear it will bring only more suffering. You meet the Lord once. He is tall and proud, with a voice like thunder. He asks you about your village, your work, your faith. You answer carefully. He smiles, then tells you that life is hard, but that it must be harder still to build a kingdom. He tells you to obey and to endure. You nod, endure. But the new Lord's rule is harsh. The soldiers take crops, exact levies, enforce curfews. They punish theft with whipping and imprisonment. The village is quieter, but fear lingers beneath the surface. You see neighbors disappear overnight, taken by soldiers for reasons no one dares question. You see your children flinch when a soldier passes. One day, your son is accused of stealing grain. You know he did not. He is too proud, too careful. But evidence is scant, and the Lord's men are impatient. Your son is dragged from your home. He is thrown into a dark, damp cell beneath the castle. You hear his cries, muffled and desperate. You plead for his release. The Lord refuses. He says justice is not for negotiation. Your wife falls ill with worry. You pray, though faith feels thin now. Days pass. Your son's health worsens. You send food and water, but it never reaches him. Then, one night, you hear that your son has died in prison. You cannot accept it. You gather what strength remains and travel to the castle. You demand to see him. The guards laugh. They tell you to go home. You shout, you threaten. You are dragged away. You return to your village broken. Your wife weeps openly. Your children cling to you. The village mourns in silence. The church bells toll once more, not for joy, but for grief. You bury your son in the churchyard beneath a small wooden cross. You carve his name with trembling hands. The earth feels cold and heavy above him. You vow to survive, because in this world, survival is resistance. You will not let his death be in vain. You tend your fields with renewed purpose. You teach your children to read the signs of weather, to work the soil, to remember the stories of those lost. You hold them close at night. whispering promises of a better future. But you know the truth. This future will not come easily. You, sitting now in your warm home, surrounded by technology and comfort, could not bear the weight of such loss, nor the cruel indifference of a world where justice is a privilege of the powerful. You would not last a day, and yet, despite everything, life finds a way. The village endures, you endure, and the story continues. The seasons turn with relentless certainty, as they always have and always will. Life in the village settles into a rhythm marked by planting and harvest, by festivals and fasts, by births and deaths. Yet, beneath this cycle, an undercurrent of fear and fragility persists, a reminder that in medieval times, existence was a precarious balancing act between survival and surrender. You awaken each morning to the sounds of roosters crowing and children crying. The air smells of smoke, damp earth, and sweat. Your hands are calloused and cracked from years of labor. Your back aches in familiar places. The cold of winter has passed, but your bones remember. You dress quickly in rough wool and leather, the fabric scratchy against your skin. You prepare for another day of work that promises neither rest nor reward. Your wife moves silently about the hearth, stoking the fire to life. She hums a quiet tune, an old song your mother once sang. The children gather, faces still flushed with sleep. Breakfast is sparse, porridge thick with bitter herbs and a handful of dried fruit. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, knowing it may be the last until evening. The village is awake, yet subdued. Fields stretch beyond the horizon, plowed and seeded. Your neighbors labor with you, faces etched with exhaustion and resignation. Conversations are few. Eyes meet, then dart away. The weight of loss hangs heavily on all. You notice the younger generation, children born after the plague, playing cautiously at the edge of the woods. They laugh with fleeting joy, but carry an unspoken awareness of hardship. They will grow into this world, forged by struggle and shaped by scarcity. The local market is smaller now. Merchants travel less frequently, wary of bandits and soldiers. Goods are expensive, and barter has become the currency of the desperate. You trade eggs for fabric, wool for salt. Money is scarce and meaningless to many. One afternoon, a traveler arrives, a man cloaked in tattered robes, eyes bright with knowledge and stories. He speaks of distant lands, of cities with stone towers that scrape the sky, of inventions that defy belief. The villagers gather to listen, captivated by tales of the wider world beyond their fields and forests. You find yourself drawn to his words, yearning for a life beyond toil and hunger. But when you ask how such wonders could ever reach a place like this, he shrugs and says, "Time will tell." That night, you lie awake, contemplating the future. Your mind drifts to your children, their futures uncertain, their lives unwritten. You wonder if they will know peace or be condemned to repeat the cycles of hardship and loss. The following days bring news of conflicts, skirmishes between lords, shifting alliances, and rumors of rebellion. Soldiers pass through the village, demanding tribute and enforcing new edicts. Fear tightens its grip once more. You witness acts of cruelty and compassion alike. A soldier shares his meager rations with a starving child. A neighbor steals grain to feed his family, only to be beaten and imprisoned. The lines between right and wrong blur in the fog of survival. Amidst this turmoil, the church offers sanctuary and solace, though its power is waning. The priest's sermons speak of hope and redemption, but many listen with skepticism. Faith is tested when prayers go unanswered, and miracles are scarce. You hold your family close, teaching your children the skills they will need to endure. You share stories of resilience, of strength born from suffering. You remind them that life is a gift, fragile and fleeting. And as the sun sets each day, casting long shadows over the land, you whisper a silent prayer not to gods or kings, but to the enduring spirit of humanity that refuses to be broken. For in this harsh world, to last a day was itself a victory. The village square, once a place of lively trade and celebration, has become a somber crossroads where the weight of history presses heavily upon every stone. The memories of famine and plague linger like a thick fog, and yet life insists on moving forward, stubborn and relentless. You walk among the villagers, noting how faces have grown harder, eyes sharper, as if each person carries a secret burden too heavy to share. A traveling minstrel arrives one evening, his lute strapped to his back, his voice rough but hopeful. He sings of distant kingdoms, of heroes and battles, of love and loss. For a moment, the village listens not as victims but as dreamers, transported beyond their daily struggles. Children gather at his feet, their laughter momentarily piercing the gloom. You watch, feeling a flicker of something long forgotten hope. But the respite is brief. The new Lord's agents arrive with edicts and fines, reminding all that life here is still bound by the harsh laws of fealty and taxation. A man is flogged for stealing firewood. A woman is publicly shamed for speaking against the church. Justice is swift, often cruel, and rarely fair. You keep your head down, knowing better than to challenge the system. The crops are poor this year, the soil exhausted by years of overuse and neglect. You work the land from dawn till dusk, aching with each movement, but the harvest yields little more than enough to survive. Hunger returns as a constant companion. You ration what you have, sharing with neighbors who have less. In this world, community is both lifeline and risk. Disease lurks in the shadows. A fever sweeps through the village, striking young and old alike. You nurse your family with boiled herbs and whispered prayers. Some survive, others do not. The churchyard fills once more with freshly dug graves. The weight of death presses down like a stone on your chest. You think often of the future. What will become of your children? Will they inherit this harsh life, or will the world change? You teach them to read the signs of the seasons, to tend the animals, to protect themselves. You tell stories of strength and resilience, of those who endured before and those who will endure after. One night, you sit by the fire with your wife, sharing a meager meal. You speak quietly of dreams of distant cities, of books filled with knowledge, of a life not ruled by hunger and fear. She listens, her eyes reflecting both longing and sorrow. You both know such dreams may never come true, yet you hold on to them, because in a world where every day is a battle, it is the hope for something better that keeps you alive. You with your modern comforts and safety nets, your access to medicine and law, your endless options and protections, could not endure this life for even a single sunrise. You would not last a day. The village is quiet this morning, save for the soft crowing of a rooster and the distant bleating of sheep. Mist clings to the fields, wrapping everything in a pale veil, softening the edges of the world. You breathe in the cool air, knowing it carries both promise and peril. The seasons govern your life here. Each spring brings the sowing of seeds, each summer the hope of growth, each autumn the burden of harvest, and each winter the threat of death. There is no escape from this relentless cycle. You rise early, working alongside your family in the fields. The soil is hard from drought, the plants sparse and wilted. You dig deep for moisture, tend the roots carefully, whisper prayers over the earth. Your hands are stained with dirt and calluses. Your muscles ache with every movement. In the distance, the church bell tolls, marking the hour. It is a sound that once brought comfort, but now carries the weight of obligation and loss. The priest's sermons speak of sin and salvation, of heaven and hell. But you wonder if there is mercy in a world so cruel. You think often of the marketplace, once bustling with merchants from distant lands bearing spices and silks. Now only a handful arrive, wary of bandits and the ever-watchful eyes of the Lord's men. The goods they bring are costly, far beyond your means. You barter what little you have: gig's wool, a worn cloak for salt or flour. Hunger is a constant companion. Your children learn early to stretch every morsel, to eat slowly, to share without complaint. You teach them how to spot edible plants in the woods, how to trap rabbits, how to make bread from acorns when wheat is scarce. These skills are not stories but necessities. One day, a stranger arrives, a scholar, traveling from a distant monastery. He carries books and parchment, strange tools that seem magical to you. He speaks of knowledge beyond the village, of inventions and ideas that could change the world. The villagers gather, curious and cautious. You listen, fascinated but skeptical. You have seen wonders before, and you know how slow change can be in a world bound by tradition and fear. The scholar offers to teach reading and writing, promising that knowledge is power. Some villagers are eager, others wary. You wonder if your children will have the chance to learn, to dream beyond the fields and forests. As the days grow shorter, the harsh reality returns. The Lord's tax collectors come again, demanding coin and goods. Those who cannot pay face punishment, fines, imprisonment, or worse. A young man is taken for failing to deliver enough grain. His family weeps. Powerless, you guard your own family fiercely, knowing the dangers that lurk in every shadow. Night brings little rest. You hear the howls of wolves beyond the village, the creaking of ancient trees in the wind, the whispered prayers of neighbors. You lie awake, listening to the world's heartbeats, steady but fragile. You understand now why you would not last a day in medieval times, because here, life is raw and unforgiving, because comfort is a stranger, because every breath, every meal, every moment is a battle against an indifferent world. And yet, amid this struggle, you find moments of grace. A child's laughter, a shared meal, a warm fire, a kind word. These are the threads that hold the tapestry of life together, and it is this resilience, this stubborn hope, that defines the medieval world and all who lived within it. The dawn breaks, not with golden light, but a muted gray, thick with the promise of rain. You awake before the sun, muscles aching from the day before, and the harsh night's chill. Your blankets offer little warmth, woven from coarse wool and filled with straw that has long lost its comfort. The cold seems to seep into your very bones, a constant reminder that survival here is not a gift, but a hard-won battle. You rise, silently moving through your small dwelling, a wooden hut patched with mud and moss. Your children still sleep, faces peaceful and unaware of the dangers lurking beyond their fragile walls. You wrap a thin cloak around your shoulders and step outside, where the air is heavy and damp. The village is stirring, a chorus of murmurs and shuffling feet. Smoke rises from chimneys, mingling with the morning mist. The dirt roads are slick with mud, making each step a cautious effort. You meet neighbors at the well, exchanging brief nods and wary greetings. Trust is scarce, but necessity binds you together. Your thoughts drift to the harvest. The fields you tend are a patchwork of toil and hope. The soil is tired, depleted by years of overuse and the demands of hungry mouths. You worry that this year's crop will fail again. Last year's famine still haunts you, the empty stomachs, the fevered cries, the silent graves. You take up your tool, sickle, hoe and spade, and make your way to the fields, muscles protesting with each movement. The sun struggles to break through the clouds, casting a pale light over the landscape. You work in silence, joined by others who share your burdens. In the distance, the church bell tolls. It is not a call to worship, but a summons. The Lord's men are assembling, gathering villagers for a new decree. You join the crowd in the square, faces drawn and anxious. The steward reads aloud, all must contribute to the construction of a fortress, a bulwark against invaders. Labor will be conscripted, taxes increased, and any refusal punished severely. Fear ripples through the crowd. You know the cost of defiance. You have seen neighbors beaten, imprisoned, or worse. Yet, you also see the flicker of resolve. Survival depends on resilience, on community, on sacrifice. You prepare to leave. Your family gathers what little they can grain, cloth, tools. You kiss your wife and children, words unspoken but understood. The road to the fortress is long and unforgiving. The journey will test your endurance, your spirit, your very will to live. Along the way, you witness the harsh realities of medieval life, weathered faces, broken bodies, worn souls. You share stories around campfires, tales of loss and hope, of past glories and future dreams. The nights are cold and filled with uncertainty, but also camaraderie at the fortress site. The work is brutal. You dig trenches, haul stones, build walls. The overseers shout orders, indifferent to your exhaustion or pain. Injuries are common and often ignored. Food is scarce, and the cold seeps into your bones once more. Yet, amid this hardship, you find moments of humanity, a shared crust of bread, a helping hand, a whispered prayer. These small acts sustain you when the world seems bleak. Months pass. The fortress rises slowly, a testament to toil and endurance. You return to your village, worn but alive, greeted by families who have also endured their own battles. The seasons change again, bringing new challenges and fleeting joys. You look to your children. They grow stronger, wiser, shaped by the world they inherit. You teach them not only to survive, but to hope, to dream, to strive for something better. And you remember the world you come from, filled with comforts and protections, where hardship is often a choice, not a necessity. You realize that you would not last a day in medieval times, not without enduring pain, loss, and fear beyond imagining. But those who lived then your ancestors did last, through courage, resilience, and an unyielding spirit. Their story is yours, and it deserves to be told. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting long shadows across the village. The air carries the scent of damp earth and smoke, mingling with the distant sound of church bells, tolling the evening hour. You stand at the edge of the fields, watching. As the laborers return, their faces streaked with sweat and grime, eyes heavy with exhaustion. The days here are defined by work from dawn to dusk. The villagers toil endlessly. There are no weekends, no holidays, only the relentless cycle of planting, tending, and harvesting. The work is backbreaking, performed with crude tools that sap strength rather than conserve it. Your hands, once soft, are now rough and scarred. You've learned to accept the pain as part of existence. Blisters burst and heal. Cuts become infected. Without warning, the cold gnaws at your joints through every season. Yet you push forward, because to stop is to invite starvation or worse. At night, the village gathers around the fire. Stories are shared, songs sung, but laughter is rare. Fear lurks beneath the surface, an ever-present shadow. The threat of disease, of violence, of starvation, is constant. The plague has not been forgotten. It lingers in memory and in the sick, who still shuffle through the streets. You hear whispers of rebellion beyond the hills, peasants rising against their lords, demanding justice and relief. But here, under the watchful eyes of the steward's men, such thoughts are dangerous. The punishment for dissent is swift and brutal. Your wife tends the small garden behind your home, coaxing life from the stubborn soil. The herbs and vegetables she grows are a precious resource: food, medicine, hope. She works quietly, speaking softly to the plants as if her voice could protect them from the harshness of the world. Your children help where they can, gathering firewood, feeding animals, learning the skills they will need to survive. You teach them stories of old, of heroes and saints, of a world beyond suffering. You want them to dream, even as you brace them for reality. One day, a stranger arrives, a traveling healer, with herbs and salves, knowledge of ailments and cures. The villagers are wary but desperate. You bring your wife to see him, hoping for relief from the persistent cough that has plagued her. The healer works carefully, preparing poultices and potions. He speaks of balance of humors and elements, of the body's need to be in harmony with the world. You listen, skeptical but hopeful. Slowly, your wife's strength returns. The shadow of illness recedes. You feel a fragile relief, a momentary peace in an otherwise harsh life. But peace is fleeting. Winter approaches, a brutal season marked by cold, hunger, and isolation. Fires burn low. Food stores dwindle. The village huddles together against the biting wind, sharing warmth and stories. You watch as neighbors succumb to frostbite, pneumonia, and despair. The church fills with mourners. The bell tolls for the dead, more often than for the living. You wonder how many winters you can endure. Yet, even in the face of relentless hardship, life persists. Children are born, laughter occasionally breaks through the gloom, and the earth beneath your feet promises renewal with the coming spring. You realize that surviving medieval times required more than strength or courage. It demanded an unyielding spirit, a fierce hope that life could and would continue. You, from a world of modern comforts and endless options, would find this existence overwhelming. The cold, the hunger, the cruelty, they would wear you down in hours, if not minutes. You would not last a day. The chill in the air grows sharper as autumn fades into winter. The fields lie fallow beneath a gray sky, and the last of the harvest has been stored in rough-hewn granaries that offer little protection from the creeping cold. You wake before dawn, the breath from your lips visible in the freezing air, and prepare for another day bound by routine and hardship. Your home is small and drafty. The cracks between logs let in the wind, which whispers through the night, chilling you despite the layers of clothing and the sparse bedding. You sit by the hearth, poking at the smoldering embers, praying for a fire that will burn until morning. The village feels smaller in winter, collection of shadows and hushed voices. Fewer people venture outdoors, and those who do move quickly, heads bowed against the bitter wind. Hunger gnaws deeper now, patience thinner. The days are short, and light is a rare and precious commodity. You think of your family, how they are faring in this cold, uncertain time. Your wife moves silently through the house, caring for the children, mending clothes, boiling water for tea from dried herbs. The children play quietly near the fire, their laughter subdued by fatigue and the dull ache of empty bellies. You wrap your cloak tightly around you and step outside. The village is cloaked in frost, trees coated in a delicate lace of ice. The river runs sluggish, thick with winter's grip. Your breath clouds before you as you make your way to the stable, where the animals are restless and hungry. The care of the livestock is a constant worry. Food is scarce, and the animals are as vulnerable to starvation and cold as the people. You do your best to feed them what remains: scraps, straw, fallen leaves, but know that many will not survive the winter. As you return to the house, you hear raised voices from the village square. A group has gathered, anger simmering beneath the surface. The Lord's tax collectors have arrived, demanding a levy for the winter: more grain, more money, more livestock. Those who cannot pay face confiscation, imprisonment, or worse. You watch as a farmer pleads for mercy, tears freezing on his cheeks. The collectors are unmoved. A young woman stands defiant, refusing to surrender her last hen. She is seized and dragged away. The crowd murmurs in fear and helplessness. You feel the old helplessness stir within you, the realization that power lies not in strength or justice, but in cruelty and fear. You pull your cloak tighter and return home, heart heavy. Night falls swiftly. The village is quiet, but the silence is uneasy. Fires burn low, shadows dance on walls. You huddle with your family, sharing stories and songs to keep despair at bay. You remind your children of the strength that lies within them, the resilience of your ancestors who survived plagues, famines, and wars. You know that your own survival depends not just on physical endurance, but on hope in this harsh world. Hope is a lifeline. You think of your life now of warmth, plenty, medicine, and law. You realize how fragile and precious these gifts are, and how easily they could vanish. You would not last a day in medieval times, because their survival was a daily act of defiance, because their humanity was tested at every turn, because their life was hardened only the strongest spirits endured. And yet, despite everything, life continued. because it must. The village awakens slowly beneath a pale morning sky, heavy with the scent of damp earth and wood smoke. The chill lingers despite the first tentative rays of sun breaking through the clouds. You rise from a restless sleep, your body aching, with the familiar stiffness that no modern medicine could fully soothe. The rough texture of your woolen tunic scratches against your skin as you dress. A small price to pay for warmth. Your family stirs, faces drawn with fatigue, yet bright with quiet determination. Your wife moves with practiced grace, tending the fire and preparing a simple meal of barley porridge. The children gather around. Eager but cautious life has taught them the value of patience and the price of haste. The village is already alive with activity. Men and women move through the streets, carrying buckets of water from the well, gathering firewood, tending to animals sheltered in cramped stables. The rhythm of daily labor hums beneath the surface of every action. There is no respite, no day of rest, only the ceaseless demands of survival. You make your way to the fields, joining others who brace against the cold to check on the winter crops. The earth is unforgiving, frozen in places, muddy in others. You carefully inspect the shoots, praying they have endured the frost. A failure here would mean hunger come spring, perhaps starvation. The steward's men ride through the village, their presence a constant reminder of authority and control. Their armor gleams dully in the weak sunlight, their expressions hard and unyielding. They demand compliance and tribute, enforcing laws that often feel arbitrary and cruel. You catch sight of a young man being dragged from his home, accused of poaching, a crime that, in this harsh land, is often a desperate act. The man protests, but the soldiers are indifferent. He is beaten and shackled, a grim warning to others. Such scenes are all too common. You turn away, heart heavy but resolute. There is no justice here, only power wielded without mercy. You have learned to keep your head low and your tongue still. As the day wears on, you tend your family's needs with care. You mend clothing, repair tools, and prepare for the long night ahead. The cold will deepen, and food will grow scarcer. You share what little you have, knowing that generosity may be repaid in kind or in necessity. The evening brings a gathering at the village hall, a rough wooden structure where villagers meet to share news, offer support, and sometimes to plan. Whispers circulate of unrest beyond the regent peasant uprisings, noble disputes, shifting alliances. The future feels uncertain, shadowed by the threat of violence and upheaval. You speak quietly with your neighbors, exchanging hopes and fears. Together, you remind one another that survival is not only physical, but also communal. Strength is found in unity, in shared resilience. Night falls swiftly. You return home, the chill biting deeper as darkness envelops the village. By the hearth's flickering light, you hold your family close, sharing stories of endurance and hope. You teach your children the lessons you have learned, the value of patience, courage, and unwavering spirit. You realize that your life, in this harsh and unforgiving world, is a testament to human tenacity, and you understand why you would not last a day in medieval times, not without enduring pain, fear, and hardship beyond measure, because here every breath is earned, because here life is both fragile and fierce, because here survival is the greatest victory of all. The chill of early morning seeps through the thin walls of your humble home, wrapping you in a cold embrace that no cloak can fully dispel. You awaken to the faint crowing of a rooster, its cry cutting through the stillness, signaling the start of another grueling day. The cold bites at your exposed skin as you rise, every movement a reminder of the hardships that define this harsh era. Your wife stirs beside you, her face pale but resolute. The children lie huddled together, seeking warmth in each other's presence. You silently prepare for the day ahead, knowing that your survival depends on tireless effort and unwavering endurance. Outside, the village slowly comes to life. Smoke curls from chimneys, mingling with the crisp morning air. The dirt paths, muddied from recent rains, are already busy with villagers heading toward fields, workshops, and communal tasks. Each step is deliberate, every gesture purposeful. Your path leads you to the fields, where the earth remains stubbornly cold. The crops, already scarce, show signs of struggle against the relentless elements. You work the soil with primitive tools, muscles aching, sweat freezing on your brow. Despite the chill, the sun barely warms the air, its feeble rays struggling to penetrate the overcast sky as you labor. You hear the distant clatter of hoof soldiers returning from the Lord's castle, bearing grim tidings. The steward's edicts grow harsher. Taxes increase. Labor demands escalate. The fragile peace shatters beneath the weight of power and greed. You think of your neighbors, those who have lost loved ones to famine, to plague, to senseless cruelty. You recall the woman accused of witchcraft, her screams echoing in the village square as the crowd turned away, fearful and silent. Justice here is a twisted thing, dispensed by those with no compassion. Despite this, the village endures. You share what little food remains with those in need, knowing that survival depends on solidarity. You trade stories and skills, teach the young to read the signs of weather and nature. You honor the fallen with quiet prayers and simple memorials. Night descends swiftly, blanketing the world in darkness. The hearth's fire offers warmth and a fleeting sense of safety. Around it, you gather with your family, voices low but steady, weaving tales of hope amid despair. You reflect on the vast gulf between this world and your own, one of abundance, safety, and choice. You realize that without the protections of modern life medicine, sanitation, you would be vulnerable to the slightest misfortune. You would not last a day in medieval times because their life demanded strength beyond the physical, because there, every moment was a test of endurance, courage, and spirit. Because there, only those with the fiercest will could hope to survive, and you, fortunate in your time, carry the legacy of those who endured, whose stories echo through history, reminding us all of the price of survival. The dawn breaks slowly, casting a pale, gray light over the village rooftops. The chill lingers, a constant reminder that warmth is fleeting and comfort rare. You awake with a start, your body aching from the night's cold and the weight of worry pressing on your chest. Your home is small and simple, walls made of timber and wattle, patched with mud and straw. It offers scant protection against the biting wind that slips through every crack. Outside, the world is stirring, men and women already beginning their daily toil. The scent of burning peat mingles with the damp earth, and the soft murmur of voices drifts through the morning mist. You dress quickly in rough-spun garments, your fingers stiff and numb. The children cling to their mother, faces flushed with cold and uncertainty. Your steps lead you to the fields where the soil lies, frozen and unyielding. The crops you sowed months ago have been stunted by harsh weather and neglect, their survival uncertain. You bend low, examining the plants with a careful eye, willing them to live. Hunger is a relentless shadow, and a failed harvest could mean death. The village is bound by more than geography is bound by struggle. Each neighbor shares a burden, each family a story of loss and endurance. You know of the man who lost his wife to fever, the child orphaned by plague, the elder who starved through last winter. Their pain is woven into the fabric of your daily life. Beyond the village walls, the world is no kinder. Lords and kings wage wars that steal away young men, leaving fields untended and families bereft. Soldiers march through towns, requisitioning food and supplies, their presence a reminder that power is often wielded without mercy. You remember the tales, told by the elders, stories of famine, of battles, of witch hunts and trials. You recall the night the village gathered to watch a woman accused of sorcery, her screams drowned by the roar of the crowd. Justice was not blind here. It was a weapon. Yet, amid this darkness, there are flickers of light. A child's laughter breaking through the morning mist. A neighbor sharing the last loaf of bread. The warmth of a fire on a cold night. The quiet prayers whispered in the church, seeking solace and strength. You hold on to these moments, for they are the threads that weave hope into despair. Your own life is a testament to endurance, a daily negotiation with hardship and fear. You navigate a world where illness can strike without warning, where hunger is a constant companion, where the law favors the powerful and the innocent suffer. You realize that you, with the protections of the modern world, medicine, law enforcement, clean water, and food security, could not survive here. You would not last a day in medieval times, because here, survival was not guaranteed, was earned through grit, faith, and unbreakable will, because here, every breath was a victory against overwhelming odds, because here, life was fragile, fierce, and fleeting, and yet, it was lived fully by those who dared to endure. The evening descends quickly, wrapping the village in a cloak of darkness pierced only by flickering candlelight and the distant glow of hearth fires. The cold has seeped deep into the earth, chilling every corner of the cramped homes and winding streets. You sit beside the fire, its warmth a fragile barrier against the encroaching night. The day's labors have left your body weary but unbroken. Your hands tremble slightly from exhaustion, and your muscles ache from the relentless toil that defines your existence. Yet, there is a fierce pride in survival, a quiet strength born from years of hardship. Outside, the village sleeps uneasily, haunted by memories of loss and the ever-present threat of danger. Stories of raids, plagues, and harsh winters fill the air, tales passed from one generation to the next. Reminders that life here is a constant struggle. You think of your family, their laughter, their tears, their hopes. You remember the faces of those who have gone before, who endured wars, famine, and cruelty. Their resilience is your legacy. The law, wielded by distant lords and local stewards, is often arbitrary and brutal. Justice is a luxury few can afford. You have seen neighbors dragged to prison for petty theft, others punished for speaking out. Fear is a tool used to maintain order, and submission is survival. Yet, even amid oppression, community thrives. The villagers share what little they have, care for the sick, and protect the vulnerable. Bonds forged in hardship are strong and enduring. You reflect on the contrast between this world and your own, a world of modern medicine, social safety nets, and human rights. The comforts you take for granted would be luxuries here. The challenges unimaginable. You understand now why you would not last a day in medieval times, because this was a world without mercy, because this was a world where every day was a test of endurance and spirit, because this was a world where survival itself was an act of rebellion, and yet, despite everything, life persisted, because humanity's will to survive is relentless, because hope endures where hardship thrives, because the stories of those who lived and died in medieval times remind us that the human spirit is stronger than any adversity. The first light of dawn seeps hesitantly through the narrow window, casting pale beams onto the rough wooden floor. The village slowly stirs, awakening to another day marked by hardship, endurance, and an unspoken hope. You rise, muscles stiff, and soar, prepared once more to face the unforgiving demands of medieval life outside. The world is alive with the sounds of labor hoes striking earth, animals stirring, voices murmuring prayers and warnings. The air is crisp, tinged with smoke from hearth fires and the faint scent of damp wood. Each breath you take is heavy with the weight of history and survival. You step into the cold morning, heart steady despite the challenges ahead. The villagers gather, united in their shared struggle and quiet determination. Together, they tend the fields, mend the homes, care for the young and the old. Their hands bear the marks of countless battles against hunger, disease, and tyranny. You look to your family, their faces illuminated by the rising sun. In their eyes, you see resilience, hope, and the promise of a future shaped not by suffering alone, but by courage and perseverance. Throughout the village, stories echo tales of those who endured plagues, famine, war, and injustice. These stories are the threads that weave the tapestry of medieval life, a testament to human will against overwhelming odds. You reflect on the gulf between this world and your own, the comforts and securities of modern life medicine, clean water, law, technology feel like distant miracles here. You realize how fragile and precious these gifts truly are. Had you lived in those times, you would have faced dangers unimaginable to us now: disease without cure, hunger without relief, cruelty without recourse. The harsh realities would have worn you down swiftly. You would not last a day. Yet, despite this, the people of medieval times lived, loved, dreamed, and persevered. Their endurance is a beacon, illuminating the depths of human strength and spirit. Their lives remind us that survival is not merely the absence of death, but the triumph of hope, resilience, and courage. As you close this chapter of history, carry with you the understanding that the medieval world was not just a place of darkness, but a testament to the light within humanity, a light that continues to shine through the ages.